I woke up and I suddenly got it. I understood suddenly how thought was just an illusory thing. And how thought is responsible for, if not all, most of the suffering we experience.
Oh, that reminds me of a quote. I couldn't tell you where the quote comes from, but it's like, the human species is the only species of any living thing on Earth that can suffer 1,000 times over for their actions.
Like, we have such a powerful memory and imagination to the point that we can torture ourselves using it.
Yeah.
And with our society today, so much of what we're doing is just mental. We're just up here all the time. And we're not letting any of that escape in different ways. So I think that's definitely one of the reasons why we have like such crazy problems with anxiety and depression and things like that right now, because it's everything else is taken care of. You know, if we were trying to survive, you wouldn't have time. You couldn't reflect on things. Because you're just surviving.
And also you don't reflect on things as much, I feel like, if you're like moving and you're always like doing something that's like not just cerebral. Like if you're using your mind, also using your hands, also like moving. Why? But yeah, if it's not just cerebral, like I feel like you don't even have as much desire to like overthink things because you're just doing, you know?
And then I suddenly felt like I was looking at these thoughts from another perspective. And I wondered, who is it that's aware that I'm thinking?
Two things on this. One, I feel like every Enlightenment story is always suddenly.
Yes.
They always say,
yes,
I suddenly understood. And I don't know if I have just never had any sort of snap in the way that they've had. But in my experience, not saying I'm enlightened at all, but I do think if I could flip to my experience of the world 4 years ago and then flip to it now, it is like it is like an enlightenment. I look at the world completely differently and in a much more like beautiful and whole way that just makes my life so much better.
Definitely.
And I think the lives of those around me.
There was no one moment.
It wasn't one moment. It was 4 years of time of work, of experience. And I think it's kind of dangerous in a lot of ways when people just always talk about this suddenly. Because I think it also plays into our culture.
Yeah.
Where it's like all instant gratification.
Instant gratification, definitely. And like not having a sort of like slow, continuous build of growth. Because then it's like if you have this suddenly thing, you can just wait on that sudden thing to happen. And you don't have to be growing. You just have to be like, well, maybe tomorrow my ego will die. Will dissolve. But that is so unlikely to happen. Yeah.
What is interesting though, I think people like Jim Carrey probably did have this one experience in time where it was like at that moment I remember it flipping. But I don't know how old Jim Carrey is and how long he's been looking into this type of stuff. But it's definitely been years and years of him working in these different ways. Yes. And then it was like suddenly that day.
That's an important thing. That's really important. Is like maybe you're just you need to build like massively to that sort of flip, even if you don't recognize it, which is something people need to say. You know,
because we just said it.
We're people,
and we said it.
And oh jeez,
I was no longer a fragment of the universe. I was the universe, and ever since that day, I've been trying to get back there.
True.
So true.
Anytime I've had any sort of like bigger spiritual experience,
real like clarity on things. Yeah.
I'll be in it. I'll be like, so good.
Yeah.
And then you'll even have this little thought that's like, is this gonna last?
Yeah. And then
this gonna
it's
stay?
almost like that thought is the thing that like slightly takes you out of it, and then you're a little bit further out of it.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, just like leaving that state of like, look at his face right
Yeah,
now.
that's
His
exactly
face
how you feel.
Is exactly how you feel. You're like,
It's
yeah, you're like, come on, need it back. But then that resistance that you have towards it is also what's pushing it away.
True. Yeah, rather than being like fully present with it.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's kind of the idea of enlightenment, is if you like let go of all of your resistance to that.
Yeah.
And
Even the
remains
resistance
there.
to it leaving, I feel like.
Yeah.
Like let it come, let it pass. That's getting closer to enlightenment.
Yeah.
Like just let things, like I've kind of recently like been going through something like this, whereas like a few days ago it felt like, I don't know, my ego just like notched down like 3 notches or something. And I was like, what the heck? Like, is this going to last forever? Like, I feel so different today. I feel like more loving, like more accepting of people. I don't feel like I need to like always like I wasn't thinking of myself very much comparatively to like day-to-day actions. And then it's sort of faded in the last like 2 days or so. And I've been like fighting it. But then I woke up this morning and I was like, maybe that's not where I'm supposed to be right now, is like always in that state. Like I just need to like it feels like it's just going to be coming back eventually. And I just let it come back. Don't force it, because forcing it will never really allow it to come back in an organic way. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Bars. Very good hold.
It comes and it goes. It's like riding a wave. Sometimes I'm on, sometimes I'm off. But at least I know where I want to go. And that I want to take as many people with me as I possibly can, because the feeling is amazing.
That's a big thing I think of if you're ever in this sort of like, I call it like state of clarity, where like everything's clear. Like you're like, I know who I am, where I should be headed, like things like that. Like that's what we're generally talking about. And like, I feel like the first thing that comes to mind a lot for me is like, this is almost useless if it's just alone. If I do this all alone, if I go through all of this stuff and like I feel like enlightened. I become enlightened.
This guy's enlightened.
I'm enlightened, in theory, in the future. But like, what's the point if you realize your connection to everything and then you don't uplift that connectivity and like bring that all with you?
That connectivity.
Like, are you really enlightened, or are you even moving towards enlightenment or awakening, whatever you want to call it? Like, if you're not bringing people with you and recognizing and like keeping those connections and like growing those connections to yourself, to the world around you, like things like that.
Yeah.
Something to think about.
What are his last words going to be? Those were his last words. I liked how he expressed the coming and going after you expressed the coming and going.
That's crazy. That just shows that there's like the more I feel like you become just aware of like the idea of awakening and like that general concept and like accepting of it, it's the more you feel like you're finding your similarities in other people. And you
start to realize that everyone's a mirror.
Oh man, that's some other stuff to think about, or not. Okay, but I think it's crazy how Jim Carrey just stands up, awakening. This is like huge for him. This is like a massive thing. Talks about it for 2 minutes, and just like the ability to put it so simply and not over complexitize it.
Complexize.
Yeah.
Over complexize.
Look it up in the dictionary. It's definitely not in the dictionary.
No. Yeah, I wonder if this was part of a bigger speech.
Yeah,
I feel like it probably was.
It also makes me wonder if we're getting too complex here.
All right. Like, comment, subscribe, be our friends. We love you. And talk to you soon.
Sifu Hotman.
Sifu Hotman. If anyone gets that, that's a win.
If anyone got that reference, I don't know.
You're
I was gonna say give you money, but then that's just playing into the system.